So this particular parent, when, we are after the whole talk and everything, and she reached out, to, I think it was my mentor, a program that he was in that program. And then she reached out and be like, my son cannot be into this drug thing. I saw some bulbs in his room. He was being innovative. I was wondering why he was gathering bulbs. I mean, these bulbs, he was gathering all this bulb in the room. He was trying to be okay, can we see? Just take a picture and then send a picture. He now took a picture and then we saw a pipe inside one of the bulb. And then some guy say that looked like the boy was dealing with crystal meth. That's meth. Eyes. We just simply told that your son is into drugs.
He's not.
Your son in
your son is
junior
not
secondary school
anything.
is into drugs. He's not trying to be Elon Musk.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode on the Free Flow podcast brought to you by RK Records. Today, we're going to be discussing something that is very, very important, eating up the society, which is understanding drug addiction. Today, this conversation is one that affects families, friendships, careers, entire communities. Yet, many people still don't fully understand it. Drug addiction, often surrounded by judgment, fear, and misinformation. Some people believe addiction is simply a matter of bad choices, while others see it as a serious medical condition that deserves treatment and compassion. To help us separate the maths from fact, we are joined by a therapist who works directly with individuals struggling with drug addiction and recovery. We have here in the studio this wonderful day, no other person but Wokocha Chijioke P. He's the ED Motivators Crib Africa team lead, Motivator Consulting Limited. Well done, sir.
Thank you so much.
How are you doing? Good to see you.
Oh, very well. What's up?
You're looking fresh.
If
not that, one or two things I would have said. But good to have you on the Free Flow podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Has been. Let's quickly jump into has been work, life, general, Nigeria.
Awesome. But coming from the background, the things that I do, I don't live in denial. So I tell people sometimes, they call me motivator. So I just tell them sometimes motivator needs motivation, right? So the motivator needs motivation sometimes
to keep going.
To keep going, yeah. So, but everything is all well and good, yeah.
All right. So real quick, today we're going to be discussing about what has to do with addiction, drugs, the abuse, and all of that, and which we know that a whole lot of persons are really going through their challenges presently in the country and even outside the country. Now, quickly, let me say this. Many people argue that addiction starts with a choice, while others insist it's a disease that changes how the brain works. Is drug addiction a choice, a disease, or a combination of both?
Okay, so the perspective really varies, yeah. But I would actually say is a combination of both. But let me start with it being a disease. When people stigmatize people who deal with drugs, we often tell people that drug addiction is also similar to when you are battling with diseases like malaria, diseases like typhoid, and then you go get diagnosed, get some treatment from the hospital, and nobody stigmatizes, anybody, and then you get all well and good, right?
Yeah.
So addiction is not necessarily a choice per se, because a lot of people who have actually gone into drug addiction never knew that it would get to that point. Like I always say, it's more like a progression. So nobody just started getting addicted to using substances. It starts from somewhere and then it leads them into addiction, right? So it's never a choice, but rather it's probably it is a disease, that affects individuals, and it is not a respecter of anybody, depending on your class. Anybody can actually get addicted to drugs. Wow. Doctors, politicians, anybody, children, adults. So it's never a thing to toy with.
let me use this word as is generally known by people who know you as a motivator. Now, we've seen situations where two people experiment with the same drug, but only one develops an addiction to it. Why does that happen? What makes one person more vulnerable than another?
Okay, so in that aspect, there is a lot of context around this whole thing, but I will just cite two. Yeah, one, let's say drug addiction or drug dependency have to actually do with gene, genetics. You come from a family where you have a grandfather who happened to be into drugs, smoking, and all that. It passes down to a father who also takes stone from the father and also to down to their son or their grandson, who also gets into drugs. And a lot of people argue that, okay, my grandfather lived for 120 years smoking and he didn't die. So why will you now tell me that smoking kills? Well, your father or your grandfather might actually be immune to all these things, but it does not mean that you yourself per se might actually also be immune to drug use, right? Of course, if you check the statistics, we have over 15 million Nigerians who are battling drug disorder, drug use. Yeah, people who are using drugs, sorry. But over 3 to 5 million, getting to about 7 million, are the ones battling the drug use disorder. So that is to say, we have about 15 million who use drugs, but about 5 million are those that are battling with it, like those who are, having psychosis, those who are actually, maybe have committed suicide due to overdose, who might have died due to overdose, or those who are might actually also have committed suicide, right? Or those who are also getting rehabilitation. So it varies. But yes, the vulnerability of everyone to a thing differs. So if, for example, marijuana can actually make someone go psycho, and the other person will take it and then feel fine, tramadol can also make the person who took marijuana and still be stable to also go psycho, while it doesn't also affect the other person. Do you understand? So the vulnerability of everybody to a thing or to a substance differs. So yeah, that is why you just have a lot of people, trying to say, drugs cannot kill this, that. Let them also, life or time will tell whether it will affect them or not. Yeah.
That's true. Okay, now let's say society often labels people struggling with addiction as irresponsible or dangerous to the society. From your professional experience, what is the biggest misconception people have about drug abuse?
Okay, so there are a lot of misconceptions, but I'll take them one by each. All right, so one of it is, people believe that when you take drugs, you become creative. Drug abuse or drug or substances, enables you to think, create, most especially musicians, they feel when they take drugs, they can be able to sing, rap, and, do a lot of stuff.
Inspiration.
Yeah, it gives them inspiration. Another misconception is also people feeling that drugs can actually make them escape the problem which that led them into using drugs. But these things are misconceptions. These things, also people also believe that those who are suffering from drug dependency or addiction per se are people who do not have a future, or people who do not, that God has written them off, right? But we have had stories of people who have survived drugs and they are doing exploits, and the person sitting before you is also one of those. Yeah. So we have actually have a lot of people who have got cleansed by God's special grace, because everything is also by God, right? So these are just a lot more misconceptions. I can actually go on and on, to be mentioning them, but these things are just misconceptions. They are not true. They are not facts. They are not doable. Yeah.
Okay. Now let me just go a bit from what I have on my list here. I believe too well that you've been able to have an encounter with one or two persons who are really gone through this drug and all of that. Now, what is the chances of recovery for some of the people you have really had one-on-one conversation with?
All right. So yes, when we go out there, we tell people recovery is possible, but as much as possible, we have to prioritize prevention, right? I will sincerely, honestly let you know that 80% of people who have sought help or who have gone through rehabilitation, if not even about 82%, have failed, right?
Hmm.
People keep relapsing, people keep going back. There are a lot of triggers that have actually caused a relapsing. There are a lot of things that might actually have led them to falling back to drugs. One of these things can actually be environment, right? So tell me why someone who actually battled drug dependency or addiction after getting rehabilitated goes back to the environments that led him to drugs, right? He will relapse. There is no rocket science to this. So one of the things that have kept us out of drugs is the awareness that, okay, we can't be doing this while sensitizing people. One, we can also be doing this because we have already know
The
the
effect of it and
effects
all.
and consequences of these drugs, and we have also made a decision to stop.
Hmm.
One of the easiest and the best way out of drugs is the decision that someone have made by himself to quit. There is no rehabilitation that can actually stop someone who have not made that decision, right? So that's basically it.
Okay, so like you said, recovery stories inspired hope, but relapse is also very common.
Yeah.
Now, can someone truly recover from addiction and live a completely healthy life, or is addiction something they fight forever?
Okay, so yeah, addiction is not something that you fight forever, because when we talk about addiction, that means you keep using it and then on and off and off. No, I can actually categorically tell you the last time I took alcohol. I survived drugs in 2019, 2020. That was when I survived drugs, and I started around 2015, 2016, right? And I stopped taking alcohol 2021. Right. So since then till now, I can categorically tell you, even though sometimes, you have the urge of, okay, just take this and all that. But when you remember who you are, you can actually still, hold down to your principles and to those things that have actually helped you. Right. I am one person who can actually tell you that, okay, I'm clean of drugs. My mentor who just celebrated his 40 years, birthday anniversary, that is a celebration of God's mercy, because he also went through hell for over 7 years of his life, after university and all that, suffered drug addiction and the consequences. But today he's doing so well and he's clean. So yes, there are a lot of people who are living clean of drugs, but yes, you must do one thing. And what is that one thing? You must be more like a crusader against these things. Because if you live in isolation, it becomes you will definitely become a devil workshop. Yeah.
Now, many young people describe themselves as casual users. At what point does recreational drug use cross the line and become addiction?
Okay, so like I just said earlier, the thing we call progression of use. Now, most often, these things are caused by peer pressure. Like for example, I'll just cite this. It's more like a fiction. Yeah, someone who gets into campus, you are not into drugs. Gets into the campus, you are not into drugs. One, and then you just get on campus and then you meet people. And definitely the people you meet, you met on campus, people who deal with drugs, use drugs and all that. Now, from non-use, you become somebody that we introduce you to, and they now become more like an experimental use. And experimental use is when they come around and tell you, okay, do you know that this thing can actually make you feel or be more creative? Just try it. Try it. You experiment. And you saw that, okay, this thing can actually even help me like that. Okay, make I just try something else. It now becomes something we call recreational use. Now, recreational use now is something, for example, they say, okay, every Friday we go out, we hang out, we take alcohol, we smoke. Every Friday. That's recreational. Now, it moves from that every Friday recreational stuff to occasional use. Occasional use now comes to a play where even without your friends, you are still using it. Okay, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I will not take it to Tuesday, Thursday is my free or off days. But maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It now becomes occasional use. Now, it will now move from occasional use to dependency. Dependency is now when you cannot do without the drugs, or where you can even use your school fees or even your feeding allowance or any amount of money
Really?
to just get the drug.
Wait,
So that's the progression
Are you
of
telling
use.
us that we have people who actually do that, use their school fees, their feeding
A
money
lot
for
of people,
drugs?
a lot of people do that. A lot of people even lie on their parents. We have a story of a young man that lied that the mother was a coma. That just to get money from the friends.
For drugs.
For drugs. Some people have also lied that their father died sometime last week and they are preparing for burial. And then when they finally confirm, they don't confirm that the father is healthy and
No,
happy.
but don't you think that is already getting out of hands? For somebody to say, please, give me money. I lost my father. All in the name of I want to use the money and get drugs.
To you, it's getting out of hands. To them, they feel they are just cajoling the people they are cajoling.
Wow.
They will just do their like this, like that. And
That means
one or two.
it's possible for somebody to just post something online and make you believe, this is the problem I have. Or people contribute money and they use it for drugs.
And do you know the most important thing? People feel that those who use drugs are not smart. They are the smartest.
Wow.
Their scheme has proven that these people can actually, even as you are aware now, one of them can still meet you and maybe collect 2,000 naira from you.
Wow.
So you don't need to feel that those people don't know what they do. They are the smartest because of the substances that they take have actually, made them to have some level of skills or creativity. But of course, on the long run, it shuts down. So this is how it goes. If they use the drugs, it will just be giving them, there's something we call the reward system or the reward cycle, sorry. So it encourages them that, okay, if you take the drug, if you can't push a bag of Smith, but if you take this drug, you can carry 50. And trust me, they can carry 50. Now it moves to the level that they can carry 100. They will still carry the 100. But it will get to a point where their strength, the drug and everything will fail them. It will collapse. They cannot even still carry 10 bags even 10 kg of Smith. Right? So that's the point that the whole thing have actually gotten to one high level and then it shoots down, it drops down. And that's when they start having psychosis, they start having issues with their mental health, their brain, and a lot, their system, kidney, liver, and a lot. So the system completely shuts down.
Let's talk like this. Families are often told to stop enabling their loved ones. Now, does tough love actually help someone overcome addiction, or can it make the situation even worse?
Okay, so in this system, we need to first of all understand the role of family in this drug abuse stuff. Yeah, I often say that family have contributed, if not about 60%, at which people use drugs. For example, how can you explain the situation where children, when they wake up in the morning, they don't see their family, their parents? They go to bed, they don't see their parents. It's just the house maids or people who actually support them in the house. Yeah. You see parents who do not have time for their wards or for their children. You see them who they don't instill discipline. The other day, I was just walking, I just said, okay, let me just enter inside one of these lounge and just look around. I just was there and then I saw a father or maybe an uncle that brought a boy in the lounge. And then he's taking his own alcohol. And then the young boy, they brought another alcohol for the boy. And then I just walked up to the boy is below 14 years.
Wow.
And I walked up to the father. The same lounge, I had a barbing salon inside. So, that's the salon where I also barb my hair. Now, I walked up to the father. I said, sir, why are you giving this boy alcohol? He said, that's the brand that the boy likes. What? So you see the enabling that we are talking about. He said that's the brand that the boy likes. I didn't want to go further with the guy. I just have to call the manager. I said, manager, who did you serve this alcohol to? He said, that's what the father requested for. I said, okay, I can also make a call and this lounge will be shut down today, this night.
Just now,
just make a call and this place will be shut down. And then I said, go and tell the man to take over. So even if you have asked the man out of the lounge or you have taken the bottle away, what happens in the house? Right? What happens in the house? There are cases of also a mother and a father who happens to be the father of this girl happened to be like Daddy G.O. The mother happened to be like Mommy G.O. in the church. Prayerful people and all that. They have this, is it the uncle of the girl who also happens to be a gospel musician too? who molested their daughter. And when the girl summoned the courage to tell their parents, they sent her to Elisha here in Osun State, from Port Harcourt to Elisha for 30 days praying and fasting.
Wow.
Guess where? To the same uncle who molested her when she was at age 16. So how do you explain? Even when they called me from Port Harcourt, they say, Motivator, this girl cannot stay with this uncle. Please, how can we sort this thing out? And when she met me, she told me something. She said she can never go back to her parents. These are enablers. Parents are enablers because they don't pay attention to details. They don't even understand the body languages of their daughters or their sons. They don't even understand anything. They are not well trained. You see children carrying drugs, all sorts of things. And then they will start crying that the consequences of not knowing a thing is high than even learning to know things. When you talk about parenting, a lot of them will be like, don't teach me how to, how to train my children.
Yeah.
But when the consequences and when the problem comes, they come running. One last story before we proceed. There is this woman that called me from Lagos State. She told me that her son had started again. What was the son doing? The son took the gas cage. I don't know the size, but it's big. I know I saw the picture. Maybe she told me the size then. And then guess how much the boy sold it? 5,000 naira.
What?
5,000 naira. Gas cylinder, big one. The boy sold it for, because he needed money for drugs. How did this boy get addicted? He went to the junction where these Aboki people sell Mishai, so the Aboki man asked him, with or without? And he said, with. So the Aboki man, he said wheat. The people that take these drugs understand what wheat is. So when he said wheat, his Indomie and Mishai, everything was laced with drugs. And then he took it and then he went home. After eating it, he came back again. He said, that particular prepared
flavor.
And it was about 2,005. And then he prepared it again. After the fifth time, the guy got addicted to it. He went back to buy the same thing. The Aboki said, the money don't increase. Now about 15,000 naira now. So all those money for drugs that he didn't pay those people, he will gather all those money and start paying. He broke into the sister's room to sell jewelry, pick jewelries for sale. Even the brother's room, the police station, everything, the mother's room and everything and all that. And then finally he got to sell the gas. So parents are not paying detailed attention to these challenges. They say they are woke parents, right? They say they know better than the people that train them. So it is really devastating and it is really heartbreaking. Wow. The earlier they get to know better, know the systemics, the schemes of these young chaps that are dealing with drugs, the better, because they are smarter than their parents. They are smarter than their parents.
Wow. Okay, so let's say mental health and addiction seems closely connected. They are like relatives.
Yeah.
How much of drug addiction is linked to depression, anxiety, trauma, or other physiological struggles?
Okay, so in that aspect, of course, mental health and drug abuse is just like 5 and 6 and all that. So in my own case, when I was also battling drugs, what led me to discovering drugs was depression. Right? I was so depressed and sometimes I don't sleep at night. Sometimes I just see myself in a very, one kind thing like that and all that. And I was looking for solution. Like I was ready to pay for anything that can actually give me the peace of mind that I needed. And I met someone, I think she's late now, a nurse. And then she sold a drug for me. And I bought that drug 100 naira. And I went home, took that drug that night. I slept like a baby. It was just like the whole burden was relieved of me. And I woke up the next morning, the burden also came back. It was just that temporary relief and all that. So I woke up the next morning, the burden now came back. But then I needed that particular thing again. Right? I needed it again and all that. So I went back from 50 milligram, 100, 200. That is what I explained about the way the whole thing makes you want more until it starts retarding. So it got to a point that I needed more because the depression was still coming every day, and all that. So the two works together. And often people who suffer mental health issues look for coping strategies or coping mechanisms to solve their problem. And then that's how they find drugs And drugs is more like the easiest thing that you can easily find to navigate your emotional problem, relationship problem, family issue. There's a young guy in our organization. When he opened up to me, he told me he lost the mom. The mom died. They were so close and all that. The mom died, and then the friends introduced him to marijuana. And now the marijuana has really gone deep into the system, affecting him. Me too, I had my own severe consequences. I had issue with seizure. When I sneeze, I have to wait for 5-10 minutes for the pain all over my body to subside before I can actually start engaging in anything. But who will I tell? Who will I tell that I am suffering from the same thing and all that? Because of stigma, one. Because of family, how would they even see me that I'm a failed person and all that? You get. So it never gets better trying to solve a problem by adding another problem to your life.
Wow.
It was only God that helped me. God, and then counseling, and it's just God, and then the people that came, around, and then helped me overcome this substance use. So of course, mental health have actually been one of the serious thing that has led people into using drugs, mental health crisis or issues.
So, real quick, one of the biggest frustration families face is relapse. Why do so many recovery addicted return to drugs even after completing rehabilitation?
Okay, so point of note, correction. They are not called addicts because it's a stigmatizing word, right? They are called they are known as people who depend on drugs, or people who use drugs. We call them PUIDs or PUIDs, or people who inject drugs. All those kind of things. So when you call them addicts, junkies, all those stigmatizing words, it just look like we are outcasting them, right? So they are just people who are suffering
I take that back. Yeah, I take
people who are just suffering from.
So those who are depending on drugs,
people who depend on drugs. All right, so that boils back to family. Now, how do you explain this, that someone after rehabilitation, gets reintegrated into the family, and then the next thing is the mom or the sisters telling them, "Hey, addicts, come and take your food. Hey, junkie, come and eat." What signal or what message are you sending?
Yeah.
Right? So people have actually relapsed, not because they wanted to go back to drugs, but because the situation that led them to drugs is still existing. I've talked about the environment. I've also talked about I will still talk about family again in another aspect, but family is also a reason why people relapse. Like this one I just cited now. And then again, another reason why people relapse too is the community, the church, the mosque. How do they see such a person after the rehabilitation? Do they welcome the person, or do they treat the person as an outcast? These are questions we need to ask ourselves. These are the things that we need to, send out there. So there is this thing that we do, but I don't know how many rehabilitation centers do that. After treating a patient or a client of drug use, they go as far as, training the parents, the family members, on how they can actually help this person recover. Because recovery is holistic. It's not a one-man job. It's everybody's job. After that, they go to the church, they go to the mosque, they go to the community where this person is coming from. If it is something that needs the person to leave the environment, you have to leave the environment. Okay, how do you explain that? Okay, for example, I just get rehabilitated, and then I just come back to the environment, and the same friend that I used to smoke with is still my friend. Even if he didn't give me smoke to smoke, I will smell it. And once I smell it from his body, these triggers will always just come. I'll just be like, okay, make I just try half. Now half. Make I just take half.
I just have fun.
Anyhow. From half, full. From full. Yeah, relapse.
Start again.
So relapsing is not just a one-off thing. There are triggers that causes one to relapse from these things, and I've actually mentioned all those places that I can actually come up with. Yeah.
Okay, now people often say if they know they are loved, they will stop. Can love and support from family and friends alone help someone overcome addiction, or is professional treatment almost always necessary?
Okay, yes. Like I just said again, it's a holistic thing to do. It's a holistic effort. Love and support is paramount, very paramount. And I often, when my mentor always talk or whatever, often I just talk about his story and all that, or we have conversations. I see the love of the mom. The mom, regardless of whatever thing he
It's
was
done, yeah.
doing, the mom was still looking out for him.
Wow.
The love, the support. I cited a story of two young guys that were owing, and one eventually committed suicide, and that one was also owing less amounts, about 2 million or 1 point something million. But the one who was owing 4 point something million survived and was able to pay all his debts. Why? What is the difference? Support system. This person that committed suicide had people who made him believe that he's worthless, who made him believe that he have nowhere to go to, who made him believe that regardless of whatever thing that you cannot come out of these debts. Every morning they wake him up with the talk about his debts. Every night before he sleep, the same bad mouth, the same toxic people and all that. And then he decided to take his life. Then the other one also have people who support him. So I tell people, one of the easiest way to overcome whatever challenges that you're faced with is your support system. And I tell them, practice OQP, only quality people. If they are not prioritizing your growth or bringing value or adding value to you, or even trying to see how you can actually, of course, it's vice versa. You also do the same, right? It cannot get better. So if it is not quality people, please don't deal with them, right? Including family. You can do without anybody. God created over 8 billion people in this life, and your life is not dependent on one person, right? So family, love, support, of course, can actually help them, navigate and get off this substance use.
You spoke about most of these people being smart. Off camera, you were talking about a particular young man who the parent thought he was being innovative until when you guys came in. And can you please help me repeat that scenario? Because while you were saying it, I was just like, oh, really? It was funny. Can you help me redraw that statement?
Okay, so that have to do with parenting too. When parents do not understand the current situation at hand, where parents feel that their children are doing, becoming so innovative. So I will just cite the example again. So this particular parent, when we are after the whole talk and everything, and she reached out, to, I think it was my mentor, a program that he was in that program. And then she reached out and be like, my son cannot be into this drug thing. I saw some bulbs in his room. He was being innovative. I was wondering why he was gathering bulbs. I mean, these bulbs, he was gathering all this bulb in the room. He was trying to be okay, can we see? Just take a picture and then send a picture. I took a picture and then we saw a pipe inside one of the bulb and then saw guy say that looked like the boy was dealing with crystal meth. That's meth eyes. We just simply told that your son is into drugs.
He's not.
Your son
your son is
junior
not
secondary school.
Anything.
He's into drugs. He's not trying to be Elon Musk. She thought the son wants to be like Elon Musk, highly innovative. So your son is dealing with drugs.
He's highly Elon Musk.
Wow. So I say your guy is into drugs, right? And it is funny, but it is not funny because she do not know the problem. And how about a JS3 boy? Last year when I was training teachers on how to, there's something we call the telltale signs. How do you know? Because it's not written on the face. So how do you know? And then the story of this young boy came up. He went to school and then a friend gave him something to say, taste this. And then he tested it and then he went psycho. Right? A lot of children, their future have actually been denied because of peer pressure. The family they are coming from are not even willing to know all these things or check all these things. A woman that used to supply her daughter cake She will order online and the woman will come and serve her. My baby girl, this is the cake that you say you needed. Under the cake was laced with drugs. The cake was laced with drugs. And she don't know. What about another family? The uncle of the girl is the one sleeping with her at age 16. It was discovered in the church how drowsy she was, how weak she was, and all that. And it was discovered. And then they called the father. The father said, never, my daughter cannot be into drugs. And then they got the test kits, tested the girl, and it was positive. How come? The uncle sleeps with her in their house. I mean, the daddy GO's house, with every prayer and everything. In that same house. Sleep with her, give her Refnol. Refnol is, they call them, take and wash. So once you take it, it erases the memory of what happens maybe within 48 hours and all that. So it erases the memory. Imagine how many Refnol that he has given the girl and marijuana to balance everything. So you give Refnol, erase the balance with marijuana. And a 16-year-old girl consistently being raped by her uncle. Wow. You can imagine how bad it is. Well, the parents are not aware because they are not paying attention. They are not paying attention to details. Yes, there is a place of doing the work of God. There is also a place of doing your own work.
More like telling parents to pay attention to
They don't pay attention to details. I can go on and tell you how many times do parents search their children, the school bag that they come back with. A lot of students have confessed that they go home, because they learn from their peers, they go home and practicalize. How many times do parents even pay attention? I can go on and tell you stories about even parents themselves. They are the ones that push these children to drugs. A girl, the father was the one sleeping with her, raping her, sleeping with her and all that. And at some point, she just ran out of the house because she just got fed up. And then she became, a prostitute on the streets. And on that street, she met a young guy, Agbadila. That one was the one that led her into the main drugs that she was taking. And she got rehabilitated, but after 3 months, she died. She died because of all this kidney problem, liver problem, lungs, cancer, and a lot of health consequences. Right? So it's a lot. Parents are not paying attention to it, and it hurts us too much.
Okay, now looking back, many families later realized there were warning signs, just like what we just mentioned. They ignored. What are some early signs parents, partners, or close friends should never overlook?
Okay, so one of the things that you need to check, for example, if you see a child who happens to be hyperactive, he plays a lot, she plays a lot. When they say Jack, she have already done what you want her to do, and then the person suddenly, become very isolative, just stays on her own, on his own, calm, and then, you just wonder, this person used to be hyperactive, so what happens? The vice versa too. Sometimes people feel that when you now start becoming me, when I was dealing with my problem, then I was everywhere. You will see me everywhere, like I show face. I saw one jolly good fellow. So nobody knew that I was going through a lot. So vice versa. If you see a child who happens to be very quiet, calm, do this, and then suddenly you just see hyperactive everywhere and all that, it's a sign. Another sign again, third sign, like we mentioned, is when they start, defending these people. For example, I tell them social media is not what it is. When they start defending a particular musician or start defending a particular dress code, no, that's so with the do and all that, you still watch out because he has learned one or two things. And another thing could be drugs, Another telltale sign you need to also watch out is when the person starts being forgetful. You have to just stop the person and say, you didn't hear me. I was calling you. So, mommy, I didn't hear. Oh, I didn't hear. Something is wrong. Be very mindful. Watch. Another one is also the friends that he keeps. Sometimes you just call the person. I want to speak to your friend. Let me just hear him out. Can you show me the picture of your friend? Can I see who you are? So there are a lot of telltale signs to look out for.
Okay. Now, this is one of the biggest debate in society. Should people battling drugs addiction be treated primarily as criminals who broke the law, or as patients who need medical and physiological care?
Okay, of course, this is one issue that we have actually won. When the NDLEA used to prosecute both the dealers and the
And the
users. But of
users.
course, we now have had it, from the United Nations and WHO that users, like I just said earlier on, they are more like people who also need help, like people who are battling malaria also need help. Yeah, you may not know how the person even starts using the
Taking the
drugs,
drugs, yeah.
right? So yes, they should be treated as people who need help. And of course, these days, what we prioritize is prevention and support over punishment.
All right. So social media constantly exposes young people to glamorous lifestyle, parties, and influence. Now, how much have social media, peer pressure, and celebrity culture contributed to the rise in drug abuse among young people?
A lot of. I tell people social media is a serious contributing factor. And one thing people do not understand is, and I keep saying it, we live in a sad generation with happy pictures. We live in a generation, everybody wants to, put up a beautiful smile on the screen, pose. Like I'm just dressed now. You say, I'm dressed, you say, you don't know what I'm battling inside, right? And I tell people, when we all get to a table and they say everybody should place their problems on the table and let's swap, you will definitely understand that me, I will take my own. I go to go. This one go to collect you. Everybody will be taking their problems because you can't cope with the next person's problem, regardless of what the problem is. Social media is a serious menace to this society. It has contributed to a lot. A lot of people I just laugh when their role model is all these musicians. For example, the people who sell alcohol, who are the people they do as brand ambassador? Who are the people that they use as brand? How many times do those people use the alcohol? Why don't they go and take the drunkards themselves as their brand ambassadors? Right? So social media does not give us what it is. You see, a lot of it's a fake life. People live fake life. People come on air, all these musicians, actors, they come, they smoke, they puff, they show all those things, and the next minute they are in private jets, they are going out of the country to get themselves detox. They will detox them, flush them, and then what about you and I who cannot even afford 3 square meal a day? So how much money are we going to use to get ourselves detox? You get it? So it is all fake. It is all not real, right? A lot of fake things are out there. And when you keep banking on those things, it will have a negative effect on you. A lot of things are having negative effect on people. And I cannot just, say them enough. Social media is not a real place.
Okay, not everyone believes they have an addiction. What's the hardest part of treating someone who refuses to admit they have a problem?
This is a serious issue. So one of my team members, when they went out there to sensitize people. So one man that they saw smoking said something. He said, all die and I die. So one thing must kill a man. But when the thing came to kill the man started running from one hospital to another. I beg, I won't die. I need help. No, you would have stayed and allowed the marijuana kill you. You get. So there is something we call the contemplation stage and the pre-contemplation stage. Contemplation stage is the stage where you are now convinced and willing to, to get this thing, get help, seek for help. Why pre-contemplation stage is the stage of that man that said, "All die and I die," where they believe that their great-grandfather was doing it and they didn't die. How much more me? And all that and all that. So these are the pre-contemplation stage. But however, the only way out is not to tell them that drug will kill you. If drug can kill them, so why? Explain things to them. Let them understand. When I was talking about marijuana, somebody said, because it is natural. It is a natural plant that God gave to them. I said, well, mercury is also natural. So go and taste mercury. Let's see whether you will survive. So it is natural does not mean that does not mean it's healthy. Right? Is marijuana the only natural plant? Why don't you go and eat a leaf now? Just chop all those ones that grows within maybe cassava and all that. Let's see how far. Because every leaf also have its, and yes, all of these things have a positive side effect clinically. Again, now there are some drugs that are meant for obese people, obesity. They take it, they come back, and then it helps them. to not be too this thing. But it's clinically used, right? And not you that you are not obese and then you are using it. So what are you looking for? The thing will look for something to shrink. And imagine that you are leper like this and that you are using something for obesity, it will shrink you the more. And that is why substances like crystal meth affects both the teeth and the human figure, the body of the person, and also the psychology. It has a psychology effect on people who uses it. Somebody took it and then he killed the mother. Wow. Somebody took it and killed the father in the East. He said he felt the father was like a rat, so he brought a cutlass and joined the head of the father. These things are happening in real life. Wow. So it's a lot. So they really need help. So you need to just let them understand and then put them into the stage where they would now understand that they need help.
Much better. All right. Many people want help, but don't know what to say. What are some of the worst things you can say to someone struggling with addiction, even if you mean well?
Okay, so people struggling with addiction. See, I cannot say any worst thing because I am not trained to say worst things. Yeah. So, but one thing I let them know that they are not alone. One, and two, they can actually do better. If I can actually survive the situation I was in, then they can actually also survive it. If my mentor can also survive the situation he was in, then they can also survive it. If people who use drugs or who used to, be dependent on drugs could survive, then they can actually survive it, right? So, but one of the challenges that they have from surviving this problem is stigma. We have had people that said they wanted treatment. In fact, 43% of the people who wanted treatment have not gotten treatment because of stigmatization. Imagine when you get to a hospital and then then they will be like, hey, so this boy, you that we are looking up to, so you self, they do drugs, is too bad. Yeah. You get, so you don't stigmatize people when they come around you, and you make sure you be as professional as you can, as in to the highest climax of your professionalism.
Okay, on a final note, I like to say that finally, let's speak to the people who are watching right now, and they need to hear something clearly. Yeah, if you could leave them with just one message, something that could encourage them to seek help or keep fighting, what would you say to
them? For people who are battling the stuff. Okay, so I also have message for people who are not battling too. All right. Okay. So first, for people who are battling these issues of addiction and all that. So the thing is, you can't want to solve a problem by adding another problem to your life. One. And two, I want you to understand that nothing lasts forever. Right? Nothing lasts forever, even the present challenge that you're faced with. All you just need to do is to speak to someone you trust about it and then seek for help. There is no better time to seek for help than now, right? The better time you had was yesterday, but today is another best time that you have to seek for help. And it is important that you don't bottle this issue up and then speak up about the problem that you're battling.
I like to say thank you.
The other message for the people who are not battling.
Who are not battling. Yeah, that's
all right.
True.
So the people who are not battling this issue yet, I just want you to understand that it could be you, right? This thing is not a respecter of anybody. It can actually be your next door neighbor. It can actually be on your door. Somebody said something. He said, it may not be you today, but it can actually be you tomorrow. So what you need to do is to support people who are going through these issues, lend a voice, give them a shoulder, support them financially, spiritually, morally, and not stigmatize them. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Motivator, for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been a very, very wonderful,
awesome. Thank you.
Eye-opening. All right. On this note, I like to say that this has really been an eye-opening conversation. To everyone watching, if you or someone is struggling with drug addiction, and remember that seeking help is not a sign of weakness. Recovery is possible, and no one has to face it alone. A big thank you to our guest for sharing your knowledge and experience with us today. We're so grateful. If you found this conversation valuable, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to all our platforms, and make sure you're getting this message across to somebody that needs to hear it. I'll see you on our next episode. Free Flow Podcast brought to you by RK Record. I see you when I see you. Be good.